remember it was a purple leotard with an S on it. So not today, not today. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. I'm so grateful for my time here at Converse. It laid a very strong foundation for me. It was a perfect springboard for me to live out my values in my adult life, which is continuing. While I was here, many of my proudest moments involved working with and leading my peers to engage in community building and service. For me and for many of you sitting down here, I'm sure college has been a time when you're surrounded by a supportive community and immersed in an environment conducive to growth. Graduating and leaving behind not just friends, but the educational and community resources here is hard. It can be challenging to find new ways of feeding yourself, maybe not physically, hopefully not. Come back here, they'll feed you, I'm sure. But emotionally and spiritually. It is easy to go straight to a place of fear, boxing ourselves in, focusing on urgent things like getting a job, earning a paycheck, paying the rent, but neglecting important things like living out our passions and values. My interfaith work and experiences at Converse showed me that communities increase their creativity and their capacity to act when individuals with different backgrounds come together to build common ground for the common good. No matter what work I'm doing to pay the rent, it's about who I am more than what I do. To be our best selves in the workplace and in our lives, we need to be authentic to our true calling so that we can offer our unique perspectives and build capacity in our communities. In this next phase of life, when you are consistently being questioned about your goals and your next steps, I urge you to consider this word, vocation. Vocation stems from the Latin root voice or calling. Many people use the term to talk about their chosen career or job path, but I'd love to work with you all today to redefine vocation using the words of theologian Frederick Buechner to guide us. He's quoted as saying, "Your vocation is the place where your deep gladness meets the world's greatest hunger." I'll repeat that. We're going to talk about it. Your vocation is the place where your deep gladness meets the world's deep hunger. How do we identify the world's deep hunger in a world that needs so much? We want to help, but we often limit our opportunities based on our own preconceptions. My freshman year at Converse, I applied to be a Bonner leader as an opportunity to deeper engage in the volunteer and community service culture with which I was raised. I was placed at the Charles Lee Center, which serves individuals with cognitive and physical disabilities. I didn't have much experience with individuals with disabilities, but I showed up ready to help. If there was a task that needed to be done, I jumped right in. I pushed wheelchairs, I fetched items from shelves that were just out of reach. I was helpful by providing for people. I was certainly being helpful in those situations, but I had a lot of learning to do in actually improving outcomes for these individuals. I, like many privileged young people, want to give back to the world that I know has given me so much. This is a lovely theory, and this theory led me to an interesting conversation with my supervisor about the needs of the individuals with disabilities and my role there at the Charles Lee Center. I was not there, turns out, to do things for them. What would truly be helpful to these individuals served at the Charles Lee Center was to provide opportunities for them to volunteer and give back. Like many Southern women, I am by nature a helper. I'm independent and stubborn, and sometimes it's hard for me to ask for help. that we are less effective, though, swooping in to save the day in a community that we don't understand and we aren't connected to. There's a quote attributed to an Aboriginal activist sister that says, "If you've come to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you've come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together." We are more beneficial to our community when we engage authentically as equals with those around us. I ended up working with my supervisor to create a recycling program where participants could lead their staff people and peers in reducing their contributions to the landfill. I came to my position as a Bonner leader wanting to feed the world's deepest hunger. This experience proved to me that I'm not the only one with that desire. Everyone has the desire to be valuable and helpful. I finished my time as a Bonner leader with a completely different idea of service than when I started. I was able to actually improve the lives of those I was serving because, for a moment, my ego got out of the way. I became a better listener, humbled, and determined to find new ways to apply what I had learned. In the fall of my senior year, I came across an opportunity to do just that. I joined 19 other college students from schools across the country in Chicago at the Interfaith Youth Corps Fellows Alliance opening retreat. As fellowship participants, we were tasked with engaging our peers and school administration to improve interfaith cooperation and service on our campuses. The other schools represented looked very different from Converse, and I admit I was a little bit intimidated meeting them. Students from Stanford, Princeton, and Yale were working with their local mosques, humanist chaplains, and world leaders to carry out 200-person interfaith service projects and engage students in large-scale religious movements. Certainly, and suddenly, the circle of friends at Converse that I thought was pretty diverse seemed completely homogeneous. I realized how easy it is to stay in and gravitate towards groups where I know I'll feel comfortable. Most of my past experience with service and volunteering came from my church community. After projects with Habitat for Humanity or feeding the homeless, we would come back to Sunday school or youth group and reflect upon those experiences with others who had a similar belief system. The Interfaith Youth Corps calls individuals and groups with different belief systems to serve alongside each other and reflect together on their work. I thought, if I'm able to make a difference within my own comfort zone, how can it be any better to bring in others with whom I might not agree? Interfaith workers often talk about building common ground for the common good. It is easy to wonder, how can we possibly get anything done for the common good with people who have so little in common? These questions only make sense until you have an experience like I had with the Interfaith Youth Corps. At that first retreat, I ended up in a late-night conversation about art with Rahul, one of my fellow IFYC, Interfaith Youth Corps fellows. We like to call each other fellow fellows. We were both singers with a fair amount of performing experience. I was a vocal performance major here at Converse and a religion minor, and Rahul grew up singing in choirs and with his family. We bonded over struggling with the decision whether or not to pursue our art form professionally. Rahul shared that singing was a spiritual experience for him and a deeply rooted part of his Hindu faith. He had other professional and career goals because he wanted to be able to use his music at any point to help others and to build community. I had sung in church choirs and in other productions growing up, but never thought of singing with the depth that he expressed it in that moment. Because of his deep spirituality, I was inspired to look at my vocation in a very different way. I saw music as something that I did for fun, very separate from what I did to make the world a better place. Rahul believes that music is indeed the most powerful tool for changing hearts and building community because of its power to speak to the human spirit. Since graduating, I've spent a lot less time singing than I used to, I will admit, but I've spent a lot of time in the audience for arts and cultural events. Even now, and even just now, when I experience a particularly powerful performance, I think of Rahul, and I use that experience to connect my image of God and my sense of my vocation. We have certainly done great work here at Converse and have made huge leaps of progress toward finding that place where deep gladness meets the world's deep hunger. Today is Converse's first multi-faith baccalaureate, and I am so proud of all that has come together to bring us to this moment. From the empty chaplain's office when I began here at Converse, to my senior year when Religious Emphasis Week included interfaith options and service projects. EC had a diversity initiatives chair, and the Student Christian Association had transitioned to an interfaith council. I can see that immense progress has been made, but there is still much more to do. Here at Converse and out in the world, we need to continue to widen our circle by seeking out opportunities to engage with new perspectives. Let's continue to build on the Converse tradition of being the first one to say hello, reaching out across perceived boundaries, taking risks with our pride to better love our neighbor, and welcoming diversity of all kinds. We will grow stronger as individuals and as a community for it. Buechner's definition of vocation is definitely something to aspire to, something that we see glimpses of in our lives, but it's never quite going to be realized. We find pieces of our vocation as we go through our lives, and we see the pieces start to come together, but they're not always going to happen at the same time. Actually, you might not feel that way at all. You might try something that you thought would make you super glad, and you're actually really bad at it. You'll have to try again, and again. And sometimes try something else. You will have to be patient with yourselves and with others. You'll have to make compromises and sacrifices. It won't feel all right and all good at the same time. Just be sure you don't compare yourselves to your friends' job titles or engagement or baby pictures on Facebook. My challenge for you all and for you all, is to redefine your vocation. Hashtag redefine vocation, anyone? Let's use that word to describe not just what we do, but who we are. Let's associate it with integrity, authenticity, and building a community of individuals who are empowered, curious, and ever-growing. Join me.